Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here at the Spartan Rocketry Club, continuing to build our Estes Pro Series doorknob mid-powered rocket. So the epoxy has dried in the motor mount, so this is good to go. In this video we're going to add the fins, which again we're going to do with epoxy, but before I get to that point, I'm actually going to go off schedule here with another change to this particular kit. Now, this kit comes with, somewhere in here, there they are, it comes with 1/4-inch launch lugs. And the instructions say you're supposed to mount them here and here. I'm actually not going to apply these. And there are a variety of reasons for that. Launch lugs are, they're not aerodynamic for one thing, and there's some other issues with rods that big. The more generally acceptable solution to this problem now is to use rail buttons. So rail buttons, they attach to a rail, which is an inch by inch kind of rectangular prism-shaped device, and they fit into it. And this is actually how, it's not the same size rail, of course, but modern like sounding rockets and things like that, they use rails. So rocketeers, amateurs, use rails as well. It's pretty much required at many clubs for anything bigger than, say, like a D. And since this is a 29mm kit, it seems like a good idea. Now, I certainly could add both, which would give me a little bit more variety, I guess, but I'm probably never going to launch this on my own. I did build myself a rail pad, which was an interesting build in and of itself. Somewhat expensive. I mean, the rail itself is, you can order it through Amazon or someplace like that. It's fairly expensive. It's going to set you back 50, 60, 70 bucks for enough rail. But in any event, I'm going to put buttons on it. I had to special order the buttons. So here's the set. I believe this came from Rocketarium, but a bunch of different vendors sell these things, and inside the kit there are 2 sets of buttons, and whoops, there they are. So this is the core part right here. This is the part that's going to go and fit into the groove in the rail. I'm not fully going to apply these yet, but I do want to at least mark off where they're going to be. Now, I'm not going to put them on, of course, because I got to paint this, and I don't want to paint over top of them, but I want to know where they're going. So I'm going to put one down here, and the instructions say to put the launch lugs at a 1/2 inch from the end and 10 inches from the end. So I'm actually going to use that as a guide. That's probably a pretty good distance. So I'm going to use this push pin here. Ultimately, it's not going to make a big enough hole to fit this screw through, but it's a good way to get started. You can use a power drill, but honestly, I find that to be quite difficult on a fairly smooth surface like this, and the push pin is at least good enough to get it started. So I already did this a little bit. I'm just going to push the push pin the whole way through, and that's my starting point. I'm going to do the same thing up here at my mark. I took this off to my closet and used the door jam technique. So I've got a nice straight line. The push pin is really easy to use, by the way. It's a pretty easy way to figure out where everything's going. You can be very accurate with push pin. Alright, so that's the beginnings. I do need to get this diameter, and that's obviously nowhere near that, so I'm just going to break out my hobby knife, and I'm going to put the blade in, and I'm just going to kind of spin it around a little bit like a drill. If you really want to, yeah, you can break out a power drill. Probably at this point it wouldn't be too bad, because you already have a pilot drilled. That's probably getting pretty close. Yeah, not quite. I've also been told, I haven't tried it myself because I don't think I have the attachment, but a Dremel tool, a rotary tool, is a good option for this as well. That is awfully close. It's not, the diameter is wider at the top than it is at the bottom, so I'm going to try to kind of even that out. It's probably just about right. Once you can get it in the top, you can usually just kind of break out a screwdriver and drive it the rest of the way. That's probably, yeah, that should do. I should be able to deal with the rest of that just by hand. I'm not going to put it in right now. The way it works is you need to take this part and let's put the blade away. I don't need any stupid things going on here. This part needs to go inside. Now this is like a 3-inch diameter, so my hand just barely fits in here, and I can barely get this to where it ought to be. Yeah, see, I can see it right there. This is going to get pushed up through, and then there we go. Basically, it just goes together like this, and it gets screwed together. But again, I'm not going to do that until I'm not going to fully attach it until after construction is complete. The reason I did this now is because back here, this is a more difficult, narrow spot. There isn't, if you can see right here, there isn't a lot of space to work with. It happens to be, oops, that's not the right spot. It happens to be basically just as wide as this flange on the back. It's going to sit out a little bit, but that's not a big deal. I want to get that hole marked before anything else happens. And I haven't fully decided. I think the amount of epoxy that I've used on this is more than enough, but I also tend to, for a build like this, I sometimes put a ring of epoxy clay here. That would have to go on after I put the rail button on. So I'm going to expand this later. It doesn't need to be done now, but my holes are basically, they're started, and that's good enough. All right, now it's time to attach the fins. So here are the fins. They are all shaped. They are ready to go. I'm going to put it like this. Again, I need to whip up a batch of epoxy. So I've got the epoxy right here. I have got a cup for it to go in. This time I'm going to use gloves on both hands because I'm probably going to end up touching the stuff regardless of whether I want to or not. And again, remember, epoxy is not something to be messed around with. You really, regardless of who you are, how old you are, you really ought to wear gloves when you do this. And I'm going to take the double glove approach here because I expect this to be a little bit messier than my first epoxy bout with this kit. Alright, so I'm going to move that for the time being because I need to make the epoxy. Again, this is a binary. I probably don't need as much as I did last time, so I'm going to go a little bit lighter, maybe like a nickel-sized spray of goop. I guess that's close. There we go. And same deal over here. That's good. Okay. I might need to make more. That might have been a little light, but we'll see. Again, this is 5-minute epoxy, so I need to get all this done, and I need to get it done quickly. And hopefully without knocking anything over. Alright, so rocket tube is here. Epoxy is going to go, basically this is going to be applied the same way that I would do a normal fin, except we're not doing the old 2-layer approach. There's no value in that today. We're just going to slop this stuff on, And we're not going to wait either, because there's not much point in that. You don't really have the time. First of all, I need a little bit more. You don't really have the time for that. And there's not a whole lot of need. I am going to not truly focus too much on getting the alignment perfectly right here. I'm not going to worry about that until the end. So the goal, oh no, I forgot. Oh no, I thought that I might not have put any glue there, but I did. So that's great. Anyway, so this is going to go into the slot. I'm going to push it down. I'm just going to hold it for the slightest bit, and then I'm going to move on. Part of this is because, you know, this is a timed affair, but also because this stuff doesn't really set up the same way as you might be used to if you're used to wood glue. It's not like the holding part isn't really going to make a whole lot of difference. Now, one thing that is a bit unfortunate here, and I might be losing this because I'm using epoxy instead of wood glue, is I'm not really sure how, if it's really possible to get glue into that crack. So I can put a little bit around it. That's, I guess, going to have to be good enough. Okay. And you can see that I haven't been as even as I could. I've made some beads. All that's going to have to be smoothed out, which is all the more reason why I'm going to wear gloves to do this, because I'm pretty much going to have to touch the stuff. Okay. I don't think that there's, if I had a thinner rod, maybe I'd be able to, but I don't think that would actually be beneficial in the long run here. Alright, so from this point on, I'm not going to be able to leave the rocket just lying flat. So I'm going to have to put it vertically after I get this one in, which means I can't really have it in frame, which is unfortunate, but also kind of unavoidable. I am going to put it upright. Just going to leave it like this. So at least get to see something. And let's get the last one. I have to say again, I'm going to pat myself on the back. I did a pretty good job estimating the amount of epoxy that I needed. I don't have a huge amount left, but I'm also not going to run short where I need to make myself another batch. So that's always nice. Again, this stuff is pretty vile smelling. It smells like, if you've never used it before, I don't know, like I imagine a dumpster fire smells like. It smells like burning plastic. So it stinks. It's not good to breathe in. If you only have a small space to work with, you should probably do this outside. That would be my recommendation. Alright, I'm having my sanding block slightly out of frame here, holding things up a little bit too. Anyway, so there's the last one. It's in place. Everything is pretty much good to go. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to break out one of the pages from the instructions. The very first, back of the first page is a template here to check your alignment. So I'm going to do that now. Try to center things up nicely. Alright, that appears to be the core of the rocket is centered. And then I'm just going to make sure all the fins are essentially inside the lines. Most of them are pretty good. This one is off by a bit, which is kind of unfortunate because it doesn't really want to give. I wonder if that was the first one that I did. Yeah, I ended up moving it. Looks pretty good. I'm gonna rotate this once just to check, which means I need to realign everything and then just kind of double check that on the centering tube anyway, and then double check all my alignments. I always try to rotate it at least once just just to make sure that I don't have a bias built into anything. Up by a little bit there. Now it's better. Maybe. Okay. Oops, off the camera. Okay. Alright, let's just double check all my alignments here. Looks pretty good for the most part, again, except for this one. This one seems to be off by a bit. It also doesn't really want to adjust. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put something fairly heavy here, kind of in its way. And I'm just going to let this sit. I've jostled everything again. Double check everything again. That's fun. That's the fun part of fin alignment. It never seems to end. Okay. Alright, that's about as good as this is going to get right now. So everything needs to dry. Oh, you know what? I need to, this is the last thing I'm going to do with the gloves. I'm going to run my finger through here, through all these seams, and if there are any beads, I'm going to smooth them out. There actually weren't that many. I think there was like one or two. And again, gloves, don't touch epoxy. That would be bad. Alright, I might have bumped things. Let's just double check to make sure. Because this is, we're getting to the point where the epoxy's 5 minutes are pretty much up. So any changes that I need to make sooner rather than later. Alright, I am now pretty satisfied with this. It's time for it to rest. I'm going to let it sit for like an hour like this. I don't know, maybe not even that long, maybe like 10 minutes. That might be enough for everything to firm up, especially this one. And then I'm going to get it out of my room because it smells terrible. Gloves off, carefully, don't touch yourself, especially with the glove that you know that you put in the epoxy. So I'm pulling them off inside out, so whatever nastiness is now on the inside of the glove, and I don't need to worry about it. Off to the trash, and goodbye nasty epoxy. Alright, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.